Hello and welcome to this video cast for subscribers to davidicke.com. Well, I'm going to take some questions this week, had a lot sent in, and I'm going to start with one from Kevin Black, which asks, is the Earth flat? Well, the reason for asking that question, only he knows, but my reply is, how would we know? How would we know if there really was an Earth? Well, we live on the Earth, don't we? It's all around us and you see it from space. Yeah, but what are we seeing? See, this is an area of research to understand the human situation that is ignored by almost everybody. You will see the research, I do it myself, and it needs doing, into political manipulation, financial manipulation, manipulation of wars, engineered terrorist attacks and all that. And that needs to be done. But the bottom line surely is to understand the very reality that we're experiencing. What we call life, what we call the world. What is it? It seems, on the face of it, to be very simple. It's a planet, it's a universe, and it's solid and stuff. It's all matter. But when you go deeper into it, actually not very deep, really, to start with, none of that is true. We don't live in a solid world. Quantum physics has shown that for a long time. We live in an illusory world that appears to be physical, but isn't. And we are experiencing the vastly advanced version of a video game, a simulation. And when you look at how people play video games, these virtual reality video games, I mean, what is happening? People put goggles on, they put headsets and earphones on, and they, often put gloves on. And what that is doing is simply hijacking, hacking into the way that we are decoding reality all the time. Because what is happening is that waveform information is being turned into electrical information by the five senses and then communicated to the brain. And the brain then decodes that. In fact, the whole genetic structure is involved, but the brain decodes that into the reality we think we're experiencing. This is what's happening. This simulation that I've been talking about for so long in the books is like a Wi-Fi situation. If you are in a place that has Wi-Fi, you can't see it, but it's in the atmosphere all around you, in the unseen. And the computer then decodes that information field into what we see on the screen. You talk about the internet. Well, you say the internet is graphics and pictures and moving pictures and words. Well, yes, but only on the screen. Everywhere else, it's just in the form of encoded information. And so what we're doing through what I call the biological computer, is receiving and transmitting information, interacting with this field, what I call the cosmic internet. Think of it like a cosmic Wi-Fi field. And as we do so, we appear to be in a world, but we're actually only decoding it, just like the computer decodes information from the tower onto the screen in a very different form. So what video games are doing, virtual reality video games are doing, is hacking into that process. Through the gloves, they are hacking into the feeling sense. From, of course, sight and sound, they're hacking into those 5 sense decoding processes of the body. And what they're doing is feeding them other information to override what they would normally be decoding in the world that we call real, bizarrely, really. And so suddenly, people can be taken, and they're getting more and more sophisticated now, these virtual reality games, into a world that is being decoded as if it's real. You'll see people reacting and stuff with the headsets on to nothing more than information being fed to their senses for them to decode into a fake reality. Well, here's a question. What if that's what we were doing? Decoding a fake reality? Which comes back to my question about, is the earth flat? Is there an earth? How would we know? How does the computer know what's real on its screen? How do we know? We're experiencing this reality which appears to be so solid but isn't. Well, there's a fake for a start. And we decode into a sense of reality whatever's in the information field, just as the computer does. Change the information, you change what's on the screen. And so, if we live in the equivalent of a computer simulation, and I strongly suggest we do, and indeed there are science projects, mainstream, well, open-minded mainstream studies around the world now into that question. Is this a simulation? Is this like a video game? As you know, some physicists have pointed out, the physics of our reality is the same basically as the physics of a computer game. And so the evidence is moving towards that all the time. So here's a question. He who controls the simulation controls the information that we're decoding, controls the sense of reality of who we are, where we are, and what the heck's going on. So, press enter. Oh, the Earth is round, mate. Look, I mean, you see it from space. Press enter. Well, look, everyone knows the Earth's flat. Look at it, you can see it from space. It is that simple. And it's only when we get into these deep questions about reality itself and the actual world that we're living in, or decoding to believe we live in. These are where the answers lie, because this is where the rabbit hole eventually leads. So these questions, these certainties that people have, so that when people like me come and question the certainties, oh, you're mad, everyone knows that. Well, how do you know that? Well, I told it at school. Yeah, and where else? Well, the media say so. Yeah, scientists say so. Yeah. Um, Ever thought that that information that you're getting from all these people was coming from the same source? Indeed, from the same hoax. People who, in these various professions, say this is how it is, are caught in the hoax, are caught in the fake reality like everybody else. Most of them genuinely believe what they say because to them it's real. But when you start to look at reality in a deeper way with an open mind, when you start to see the process of how we um, decode reality and experience reality, then these big questions start to demand answers. What is this place? Is this world that we are decoding real? Or is it click, click, enter? And if so, who is doing the click, click, enter? I mean, years ago, bloody lot of years ago now, in the 1950s, the London Planetarium opened. And I was living in Leicester. I was born in Leicester in the English Midlands. And we never had any money. We lived from week to week. But one day, like, what? My father came down on one of these bank holidays. Came down the stairs and he announced that we were going to London. What? This would have been about late 50s. So I'd have been 6, 7. And so it was great. Went on a steam train, loved it. Gets to London, never been to London before. And my father announces we're going to the London Planetarium. I didn't even know what it was. And my father had absolutely no interest in astronomy, never mentioned it, never talked about it, but now we're going to the London Planetarium. And where I'm going with this is this. I went in the middle of the day, little kid, sat down, lights went off, and suddenly the night sky was above me, looking to me every bit like the night sky. And something struck me that day. He was a little kid. And I've always kept this in my mind ever since. Is this real or is this just a movie, basically? And talking of the night sky, we look and we see these stars, and they're thousands, millions, billions of light years, all these fantastic distances that they talk about away from us. And yet, they only exist in the form that we appear to see them when the brain, just a few cubic centimeters of the brain, decode that information into the perceived reality. Because there is no time, and there actually is no space. It's all an illusion.